Hi, I'm Misty. I'm here with my horse Skeeter. He's my barrel horse, and my issue with him is to catch him to go to the barrel racing events. He runs circles around me out in the pasture. I have to bribe him with feed and alfalfa cubes, run him into stalls or build corrals with panels to be able to catch him. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 hours, and sometimes I don't even make it to my barrel event because I cannot catch him. It might take me 2 to 3 days. So I'm here to help my technique on trying to earn his trust to be able to catch him.
Well, this is actually a game the horse is playing. It's called Watch Me Control the Human. And he likes to run to one end of the arena, wait till she gets all the way to that end, and then take off and run to the other. So in his mind, he's controlling her actions. And horses love that. And as you can see, he's very proud of his behavior. So now that he's got her all the way to one end. Now that right there was actually a very significant signal he's giving to the owner that he's ready to quit this game. He dropped his head, started licking and chewing. But she kept advancing like she was still playing the game. So he ran off again. So it's important not to get so caught up in the task that you forget to see the feedback the horse is trying to give you. That head up and tail up and prancy behavior is called prideful behavior in a horse. And it means he's pretty impressed with himself. He thinks he's doing a pretty good job. What we've got to do is turn the tables a little bit so that she's controlling his actions instead of the other way around. Well, he sure gives you a workout, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Do you get the sense that he's kind of playing a game with you?
I do. And out in our pasture, he runs circles around me. And it's almost like he smiles, like, you're not going to catch me this time.
Yeah. Well, this behavior that he's doing with the head up and the tail up and the prancing, that's called prideful behavior. He's pretty proud of himself for making you have to work to get him. So, but he gets tired of the game.
Right.
Fortunately.
Right.
And so then he says, okay, you may catch me now.
Right.
So what we like to do is get him to say, you may catch me now as soon as you walk in the pen.
Exactly.
And what has to occur is we have to change the rules on the game so that you're the one that's in charge, so that he gets the feeling that you're the one making him work instead of the other way around. And during this process, we're going to have to really watch his body language because he'll tell us when he's ready to be caught. He did a couple of times just then, but you kept advancing, and so he said, oh, the game must not be over, so I'll keep running. So we're going to watch him, watch his behavior, try to look for these signs when he's ready to be caught, and reward him for that.
Right. Okay.
So, well, let's take him back, let him settle in a stall for a minute, and then we'll turn him loose again. Since you've caught him successfully now, we'll give him just a little break, and we'll bring him back and turn him out, and then I'll show you this process for teaching him to be caught a little easier.
All right. Thank you.
Good. I don't really think he's going to be that hard to reprogram, and there's a few things that I want you to think about in this process. We'll let him run around and ignore him for a minute. First of all, it's really important to read what's going on in his mind.
Right.
At times he's playing a game with you, and I think you figured that out already.
Right, yes.
At other times he's saying, okay, I don't want to play this game anymore. And earlier there was a time, and he was right over there in the arena near where he is now, and you had come up and down several times, and he ran to the end, and he stopped and turned and faced you, and very deliberately dropped his head.
Right.
And that was his indication, I don't want to play this game anymore.
Okay.
When he changes, you have to change your body demeanor. Because what happened at that point was you kept coming at him aggressively. So he said, oh, the game must not be over yet. So he took off running again. So your body language is really important. And this is a method called walking a horse off. And what you were doing yesterday was very similar to that.
Right.
When you walk a horse off and you don't hide the halter or do anything like that, you walk straight towards him in a somewhat aggressively manner. We don't want him to think we're chasing him, but I look him straight in the eye with the body language that says, I'm going to catch you. If it takes me all day, I'm going to catch you. And I don't want to play those games where I try to block him in the corner or do anything like that. Just walk straight towards his eye.
Okay.
But here's the second part of that. At any time in this process that he turns and faces you, you turn your back to him and step away. Because what all of training horses is about pressure and release.
Right.
When you look him straight in the eye and you say, I'm going to catch you, you're putting mental pressure on him. When you turn your back to him, you release the pressure.
Okay.
And so what we want, ultimately what we want to happen is when you walk in the pen, he comes straight to you. You don't even have to walk across the pen. And he's kind of thinking about that now because we're ignoring him.
Right.
And he would either we play the game with him or go on him, you know, he wants some attention. So we're gonna walk him straight at him. Wherever he goes does not matter. We're not going to increase speed or decrease speed. Just walk straight at him with a very determined and intentional body language. But watch his body language. And at any point he turns and faces you, turn the back and step away from him.
Okay.
Then you've got to kind of watch him over your shoulder to see what he's going to do. He may come to you at that point.
Okay.
Then my body language is going to totally change. At any time he changes his body language, I change mine. So at any time he turns to me and faces me and says, like, I don't want to play this game anymore, I've got to change my body language. I'll not look him straight in the eye anymore. Kind of open my shoulders, round my shoulders, walk to him real casually, and just pet him.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be that hard, but let's go ahead and give it a start. I want you to hold the halter. Never hide the halter or any of that stuff.
Okay.
That's part of a game. So let's just walk straight towards him like we're going to catch him. Now stop. Okay, because we got his attention.
Right. Okay.
And he turned and faced us, so that's fine. That's his first warning that, oh, number one, we're not going to play a game, and number two, the right answer is to turn and face me.
Okay.
So he's walked off now, so again, we're going to walk straight towards his head, and he stopped. Now he's getting curious. He says, wait a minute, this isn't the way we normally play this game, so something's changed. The rules have changed, and he's trying to figure it out. Okay, now that he's standing and he hadn't moved and he's still facing us, now we're going to change our body language. So let your shoulders be down, just kind of angle your shoulders away from the horse, and just, this is muddy so it's hard to do, but kind of drag my feet, all right, and here we go. Straight in the eye. That looking him straight in the eye is a lot of mental pressure for a horse.
Right.
And it's that mental pressure that bothers. That's why they give up on this game, because they can't take the mental pressure you're constantly putting on. Okay, now he's turning and face. Let's just leave for a minute. We'll stand here for a minute. I can kind of see him out of the corner of my eye. As long as he's still looking at us and standing still, we'll just give him a minute, see if maybe he'll come to us. That's ultimately what we want, is he comes to us.
Right. Okay.
So this is how you program that into a horse. And if not, if he's going to kind of just stand there. He's still watching us to see what we're going to do, because he said, this is different. Something's different about this. I'm not sure what's going on. So when we turn back around now, it's going to be real casual, shoulders rounded, kind of looking away from him, and your shoulders angled away from him in either direction, just so you're not facing him straight on.
Okay.
So let's turn around and just walk real casual like. When you go to approach a horse that is, he was just thinking about what to do. Okay, now we go. Again, we don't really want to look like we're chasing him. And this exercise, this is a good size pin for this exercise. It's not a great exercise in a small pin.
Okay.
Because they give up too easy. They know they can't get away with it in a small pin. Okay, so stop, turn away from it. Sometimes I'll even walk a few steps away, and that's okay. If all you had was a 40-acre pen, you could still do this.
Okay, that was my next question, because we just have a big pasture, and that's where he enjoys the game.
Put on your comfortable walking shoes.
Okay.
And the thing is, I always tell people, the first time you do this, it may take a while. The worst horse I've ever walked off took 45 minutes. So you just sort of, now since he hasn't moved, let's go ahead and just reward him again, take the pressure off. The worst horse I ever did was 45 minutes. Most horses, and I don't think he's that bad from watching you yesterday. He gives in pretty easily.
Right.
But
we have had our bad days, though.
Sure. Yeah, and you could see it was a real game to him. Now we're looking for him to drop his head in submission and contrition, and him just to say, now I don't want him to think we're tag teaming here. I don't want him to think I'm going over there and you're going over there. So I'm gonna stay close to you.
Okay.
In fact, maybe I'll just stay right here.
Okay.
And so when, it may not be, but it kind of looks like he's willing to stand there now. I would have liked to have seen him drop his head, but he hasn't done that yet. So when you approach him, you always want to approach the shoulder, so not directly in front of him.
Okay.
And there's some head drop. Okay, that's a good boy. And let's just turn our back on him again to reward that response. So in normal circumstances, when a horse is standing ready to be caught, when you approach him, you want to approach towards the shoulder, kind of at an angle. Okay. And again, you don't want to look him straight in the eye. You want your eyes kind of glanced away. I like to let him smell my hand first, stroke him a couple of times. Okay. If you got a really bad horse, sometimes you need to get that rope around the neck first.
Okay. And when I approach him, does it matter which side, or should I approach him on the side that I normally buckle its halter on?
Well, ideally you would approach him from the left side, but sometimes the circumstance might not allow itself for that, so you should be able to approach him from
So it's something good
side.
to work on both sides of him with.
Sure. All right, go ahead and just walk up to him and see if he's gonna stand. So your eyes glanced away from him, and he's thinking about, should I run or should I stay? Should I stay or should I go? Good boy. Okay, now I want you to just go ahead and slip the halter on, and you can just switch sides. He's made up his mind now. And what you're gonna do right now, and when a lot of times when you go to catch him, it's gonna be because you're gonna ride him or whatever.
Right.
But it's a good idea with these hard to catch horses to do this walking off, plan it as a training session, and don't plan anything else that day.
Okay.
Because if it takes a while and you start getting in a hurry and impatient, he knows he's got your number. Right. Okay, just pet on him for a second, and then I want you to take that halter off and we're gonna walk away from him. Okay, go ahead and take it off. Because the other thing here is we want him to realize that just because I put catch you doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Right.
Okay? It can be a good thing. If I had a really very difficult horse to catch, and I don't think he falls into that category, I might, after I've got him haltered, pull out a treat when I pet on him. Never before I haltered him.
Okay.
And I would never try to use a treat to bribe a horse to catching him, because then they think they're controlling your actions. But I thought that was pretty good. Some things clicked for him. Let's leave him alone for a little bit, and then I'd like to see you come back and catch him a little bit later. Okay, Misty, let's go ahead and have you approach him again. Remember, when he turns to face you, just stop and reward that behavior by releasing the pressure. Doesn't have to stop for long. Go ahead and come back to him. And sometimes you'll see it looks like he may be thinking about coming to you. And in that case, you want to give it a moment to see if he will. Okay. And well, now I would walk towards him with intention. Don't try to cut him off. Just walk straight towards his eye. Good. Good. Now stop. Turn your back. Good. It's watching you, thinking, what do I do now? All right, turn back towards him and just slowly, with your less aggressive body language, reach your hand out, let him smell it. Pet him a little bit. Now here's an example of where you couldn't approach him from the right, or from the left, I mean, so you have to from the right, so good. Now that wasn't bad. It was, he thought, well, I really think I should try this again.
Right.
But he didn't try very hard, did he?
No, he didn't.
And you changed your body language immediately, and he said, oh, darn it, I'm not going to get her to play this game.
Right.
So the important things are to be really aware of your body language and really aware of his body language.
Okay.
When he is playing that game and running off, you're going to march towards him straight in the eye.
Okay.
No cutting off, no running, no playing games. I'm coming. When he stops and looks at you, you stop.
And turn.
Take away the pressure. And eventually he will get to where he actually, when you stop and turn around, he'll actually come to you.
To me. Okay.
So, you think that, you got a
yes.
plan?
Yes, it's definitely going to help with our catching situation. No
Good.
more chasing.
Good, good. Just don't play that game.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I
Thank
think
you.
you're going to do fine.
I think so.
Here's a quick tip. Riding lessons aren't just for children. Maybe you're an adult rider coming back to the sport after a long layoff, or new to riding, or changing disciplines. Riding lessons are a great way to improve your confidence and increase your skill. You know, in theory, humans are much smarter than horses, and we have elevated ourselves to a position of intellectual superiority over the horse. In fact, if you've ever looked at a horse's skull, what you've noticed is the brain cavity of the horse is quite small. Most big dogs have a brain the size of a horse. And the horse brain and the human brain are similar in many ways, but they're different in many ways too. Like us, the horse has two parts to his brain. He has the upper brain, or the cortex, and he has a lower brain, or the brain stem. The cortex is where higher thought occurs, the ability to reason and language and do mathematics. All of that occurs in the cortex of the brain. And the lower brain, or the brain stem, is associated with basic life functions and survival skills and instinctive behavior. The human has a very large cortex, and we have the ability to invent the nuclear bomb and cure cancer and reason and problem solve and all those important things. But if you think about our ability for survival and instinctive behavior, all of those things are fairly diminished. So we have a very large cortex and a very small brainstem. The horse, on the other hand, has a very large brainstem and a very small cortex. The horse's ability to act instinctively and to survive in rough conditions is very strong, but his ability to reason and problem solve is very, very limited. And I can prove this to you by telling you a couple of stories. First of all, imagine this scene. you've got a big pen full of horses over here, and we got a big empty pen over here. We're going to take one horse out of this herd and put him over in the pen over here. And what do you think that horse is going to do? Well, all day long he's going to run up and down this fence nearest to his friends and look and call to his friends, because all he knows is that he wants to go over there where his friends are. The horse doesn't have the problem-solving ability to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's another way out of this pen, and maybe if I go away from my friends, I can find the open gate, and then I can turn this way, and then I can go over here and be with my friends. He doesn't have that ability because he doesn't have the ability to linear reason. Linear reasoning is when we put two or more thoughts together to predict a certain outcome. All the horse knows is that his friends are over there and that he wants to go that way. So the horse's ability to problem solve is very minimal. Our ability for problem solving and processing information is very good. So you would think, then, that we could outthink the horse in most situations. However, sad but true, horses are outthinking us all the time. Let me give you a couple of examples of that. Have you ever ridden a horse and you're riding along, going down the road, and all of a sudden you decide to ask the horse to turn? So you pick up the rein to ask him to turn over here, and your horse goes that way. Anybody ever had that experience? Okay, that's what we call running through the bridle. We've asked our horse to turn one way, and he ignores our request and goes, in fact, the other way. Usually what he's doing is going towards the gate or going back towards the herd, which is where he want to be. What we do in our position of intellectual superiority is we say, okay, my horse won't turn this way. Aha, I'll fool him. I'll turn him on around this way, and I'll bring him all the way back over here where I want him to go to begin with. Aren't I smart? I just outthought my horse. But think about what's going on in the horse's brain. You pick up the rein and you ask the horse to turn, and he says, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to go that way. Oh, good. I get to go this way. What we've done in that instance by outthinking the horse, we've circled him around and brought him back to where we wanted him to go to begin with, but all we've taught him is that if he ignores our request, we'll let him go the way he wanted. It's a whole nother day to the horse when you get him back over here where you wanted him to go. All he knows is that by refusing you, he got to go the way he wanted to go. So that's a great example of how the horse is outthinking us. Let me give you another example of how the horse has sometimes more brain power than we do, and that occurs in trailer loading. I see this happen all the time. Someone's leading their horse up to the trailer, and pretty soon the horse catches sight of the trailer and says, I'm not going there, and maybe he throws a little fit. So what do in our position of intellectual superiority? We lead the horse away from the trailer and think, let's try that again. Maybe next time with a little momentum we'll get him in. But what if we just taught the horse? We've taught him that when I walk him up to the trailer and he resists me and throws a little fit, I'll take him away from the trailer. That's all he wants. Again, it's a whole nother day to the horse when you walk him back to the trailer. All you've succeeded in teaching your horse is that when he refuses you, you'll take him away from the trailer, which is what he wants to begin with. So as you can see, even though in theory we're smarter than the horse, it happens all the time that we let our horses outthink us. It's important not to be anthropomorphic around a horse. And anthropomorphic means instilling human characteristics on an animal. What we want to be when we're working with horses is hippomorphic. Hippo is the Latin word for horse, and we want to learn to think like a horse.
My name's Diane, and today I brought my horse Jasmine. She is supposed to be my all-around trail horse that I bought to replace a horse that I used to have, but she has a lot of issues. She likes to balk on the trail, and then if I discipline her, she bucks, she rears, she tries to bite me, and I'm putting a lot of hope into today that Julie can help me with my horse.
Well, already as Diane's leaving the barn, you can see the mare's thinking about not going by the way she's looking around. She's looking for a way out. Boy, she just stops whenever she wants, and she's using a lot of threatening behavior. She's threatening to rear and actually rearing. When Diane reaches around to spank her, she threatens to buck or kicks out. This mare's got a lot of tricks in her bag, and you can see that Diane's reluctant to discipline her. You can also see, it's interesting to look at the mare's eye and see that she's actually got a pretty calm look on her face. She's thinking about what she's doing, and she's thinking about the next thing she can do to get Diane to turn her back to the barn. And every time Diane circles her back, the mare gets a little bit closer to the barn, which is where she wants to go. Kicking and kicking and kicking this horse, but I don't care who you are, you can only kick for so long and then you have to stop. And when you stop, the horse gets a release. Well, Diane, she's quite a handful, isn't she?
She is.
She's learned quite a few tricks to get what she wants. And you know, what I see a lot is that you have some reluctance to discipline her because she's got a lot of threatening behavior, and sometimes she actually acts on those threats.
Yes, I just have kind of gotten afraid of her because she does have a big bag of tricks, and at my age, I don't want to get dumped.
Sure.
So.
Well, of course you don't. Nobody does. And I think therein lies the problem. She knows she's buffaloing you, and she knows it. And like I said, the problem with horses, disciplining horses that are acting poorly, is you have to understand that it's always going to get worse before it gets better. You said you've had her for 5 years. Was she acting this way when you first got her?
Well, she only had 20 rides on her when I first got her.
Very green.
Very green. They'd only had walked her and done a little bit of trotting. And I've had green horses before, but nothing with a personality like this one.
But not with attitude.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot of attitude, but you know what? When I look at her, I don't see a horse that needs to be that way. She's learned to act that way. Unfortunately, she's not had good, solid training in her past. So this is the only way she knows how to act, and she's gotten a lot of reward for it. So I think that there's quite a few things that we can do, starting with backing up from the very beginning. This is the result of your problem, but not the beginnings of your problem. You have a lack of authority with her that is there pretty much every time you're working with her, probably on the ground as well. So let's go back to an area where we can do a little bit of schooling and see what we can do to kind of figure out how you can get more authority over this horse.
That sounds really good.
Okay. Well, Diane, I think this is a nice little area for schooling. It's open and it's kind of similar to a trail, but we've got a lot of different places we can take her and stay safe. And really, to tell you the truth, Diane, there's only one thing wrong with this horse, and it's simply disobedience. And I think we need to sort of start back from the beginning and teach her that you're the one in charge, not her. Right now, she thinks she calls all the shots. And you'll notice the first thing I did was change the bridle and change the reins. And while I think the full cheek snaffle is good for a lot of things, for your particular situation, I think is actually working against you. The bars of the full cheek actually give the horse something to lean on. And so with that particular bit, you're actually having to work harder. It's giving her a way to lean and kind of take control of your hands. Also, I put a set of my rope reins on her just so that you can have an easier grasp of the reins when she goes to pulling on you. And you've got those thin, slick leather reins. It's not much to hold on to. Now, there's 2 or 3 things I want you to really focus on her. We're going to keep it simple. One is that if you're the one in charge, that means you dictate the path she walks on, not her.
Okay.
And so I want to control each and every piece of dirt that she walks on. And I don't want to compromise her. You know, here's what it boils down to, Diane. There's really only one conversation to ever have with a horse. And it goes just like this. Horse, this is your captain speaking. Okay? And so what that means then is that everything that comes out of my mouth is a direct order to you. And I'm the captain and she's the first mate. She just doesn't know it yet. And if I have a good first mate, my first mate does not question my decisions. I do not compromise. If I issue a directive, I expect the horse to do it. So you've been in a situation, Diane, where you've been compromising with her. You've been letting her make decisions like where she goes and how fast she goes. So from this point forward, I want you to focus on two main things. Number one, you dictate the path she walks on, not her. And I mean exactly.
Okay.
So when she's not walking exactly where you told her to be, correct her. Number two, you dictate the speed that she goes. She doesn't get to speed up whenever she wants, and she doesn't get to slow down whenever she wants. And so one thing I noticed before you even had all that trouble and you were coming away from the barn is that she would slow down as you turn away from the barn, and she would speed up as you turn back towards the barn. So as I work in this area out here, first of all, I want you to notice that every time I turn her, I'm turning her away from the barn. I'm not going to turn her back towards the barn. But when I do allow her to move towards the barn, which is only going to be when she's obedient, I'm not going to let her speed up. So if I point her back towards the barn here and she speeds up unauthorized, I'm going to harshly slam her back to a stop. I might even back her up, just like that. Turn her away. Okay, so even there, she does not get to choose the speed. That's my job. So if she speeds up unauthorized, slam her down to a halt, even back her up if you're going towards the barn. If she slows down unauthorized, reach forward, get after her with her legs. I don't even care if she's defecating, she can still walk and do that. It's a miracle of nature.
Okay.
So it's just some simple little things that you need to do to take control of this horse. She needs to learn she's not the boss of you. You're the one calling the shots. Now, I don't expect her to just roll over and do that. You're going to have some major discussions with her over this issue. And I think rather than at this point challenge her by taking her completely away, I'd like to see you work in this area a little bit and just work simply on those little things. You dictating the path, you dictating the speed, not making compromises and all of that with her. Okay, Diane, you think you're ready to give this a try?
I sure am. Let's get going.
Okay, well, one thing I noticed earlier is that you're riding with your stirrups way too long, and that's going to affect your ability to stay balanced on the horse and to cue the horse. So first thing I'd like to do is raise those stirrups, get you comfortable up here, then we'll start on retraining this horse.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we've got your stirrups shortened. They look great. Let's have you go ahead and start riding around out here. I want you to kind of just ride all over here and there. Go ahead.
Okay.
But remember, you're dictating the path, so focus on where you're going and make sure she goes there. Don't compromise with her. And as you work, I want you to remember to turn her away from the barn. And it's okay to circle back towards the barn and give her a little test. As you come back towards the barn, the test is going to be if she increases speed, and you're going to get after her.
Okay.
As you go away from the barn, if she slows down, you're going to get after her. Now, and by the way, when I say get after her, if she's speeding up, I want you to harshly stop her and even back her up.
Okay.
That's her punishment for making an unauthorized decision. If she slows down when you turn away, you're going to cue her once to go forward by reaching forward, squeezing her with your legs, and then go to that stick. Give her a little spanking. Now, one thing I want you to focus on very intently is where she's looking. Okay. Her job is to keep her nose in front of her and go where you point her. Long before she acts up, she's going to tell you by looking at the barn or looking where she wants to go to. So what you need to do is get proactive with this horse. Start making corrections before her behavior gets very bad. So every time she looks at the barn, like there, good. I want you to bump that rein pretty hard. It has to be enough pressure to make her go, why did that happen, and what do I have to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Okay.
Get more aggressive.
More aggressive, and find the amount of pressure that motivates her to change. Now, I like the way she's looking now. She's relaxing. She's being compliant. So I want you to ride in a certain area. When you feel like you've accomplished what you need to here, move on. Go somewhere else, a little bit farther away. Go back and forth, away from the barn, towards the barn. Only turn back towards the barn when she's acting right.
Okay.
And so I want you to give her little challenges. So over the next day, you're going to expand your horizons. You are going to dictate the exact path. You are going to dictate the speed, and you are going to control her nose.
Okay.
We're going to work on these small disobediences.
Okay.
And that's going to eliminate the big ones.
Okay. I can't wait to start.
Well, you're doing it now.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Well, Diane, this is looking pretty good today. Is she behaving herself?
She's a lot better today.
Good, good. And what have you been doing to help with that, do you think?
Well, I've been trying to keep her attention away from things that she wants to look at. I've been trying to keep her head in the right position.
Good.
I've been getting after her if she tries to balk, using my hands at 10 and 2.
Great. Okay. I think the main thing that's going on with her, Diane, is that it's not really the big issues that are the problem. Don't wait until she's balking and bucking and rearing and throwing a wall-eyed fit. It's the little disobediences that have to be corrected. And those are happening all the time in everything that you do. If you get on and she walks off without you cueing her, reprimand her.
Okay.
If she does anything without a cue, if you turn back towards the barn and she speeds up, reprimand her. If you turn her away from the barn and she slows down, reprimand her.
Okay.
Her job is to keep her nose in front of her in the direction that you told her to go.
Okay.
Anytime her nose is not there, bump the outside rein and say, no, you look straight ahead. That's your job.
Okay.
The problem is we often wait until the issues are really big before we realize we have a problem, but it's all the little tiny things that led up to that, and it's just strictly a matter of disobedience with her.
Well, it's made me much more aware of when she's being disobedient.
Yes. There's a lot of little things that are going on here.
Yeah.
It's not just the big rearing, bucking thing that's the problem. So I like the way you're looking. You're looking much more assertive. You're correcting her sooner and with more confidence. So I like the looks of that. What I'd like to do, if you're game, I'd like to go over to the area where you had so much trouble yesterday and see if we can get her through there.
Okay, great.
Good. It's real obvious, you know.
Yeah.
Put her to work, make her do something. And then when she relaxes, right now I think it's just the bugs.
Yeah.
Then when she relaxes and softens, let her go about whatever it was you were doing.
Okay.
So why don't you walk her back towards the barn, but be aware of when she speeds up. Slam her down,
Okay.
back her up. No,
Okay.
you go on my terms.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Terry. We're from Texas. This is my horse Faith. She's a 5-year-old quarter horse mare. I've had Faith for about 1.5 years now. I bought her with the intention of being a brood mare, but she's such a lovable thing, and I found out she was broke to ride. So when I found out, I decided I wanted to make her my Western pleasure horse and try and get back to in the show ring. I've had multiple back surgeries and it's made it rather difficult, but she rides very well. She's very smooth at a walk trot, and I feel very comfortable with her. We'd like to go on to compete in full Western pleasure classes. Her lope is very, very choppy. Her neck is hollow. I'm looking for help with lowering the speed and control with the horse.
Boy, this is sure a pretty mare Terry's got, and she's a really good rider. You can see she's had years of experience, and even given her physical limitations, she really sits nicely on the horse. The main issue I see here is that the horse is going constantly above the bit, and that causes her to hollow out her top line and stiffen her neck. And that's what in turn makes the canter choppy. And it feels to Terry like it's hard to sit, and she's bouncing all over the place. She doesn't really look that way, but it feels choppy because the horse is hollowed out. Really, the biggest issue I see here is the bit is not the right bit for this horse. that's what's causing the horse's resistance and tension. I think that Terry's certainly a good enough rider to put this mare in a better frame and collect up the canter just a little bit more so the horse is working off her hind end. And that's also going to slow down the gait and make it more appropriate for her Western pleasure competition. But first we have to make the mare a little bit more comfortable so she can relax her top line. Collection is actually a natural movement of a horse, and it's called prideful behavior. I'm sure you've all seen it when a horse is trying to strut his stuff and he arches his neck and he rounds his body. And it's called prideful behavior because generally the horse is trying to display that he's a really cool horse and he's really studly material. So collection is a natural movement of a horse. The horse is perfectly capable of doing it on his own. But like anything with riding, we need to take a look at how we can ask the horse to do it on his own and on our command. Let's take a look at what collection is, first of all. Collection refers to the frame of the horse. And when we're talking about the frame of the horse, we're talking about what you see in profile, coming up the face of the horse, down the top side of the horse, and down his backside as well. Right now, this mare is in what's called a low and level frame. This is the relaxed frame of the horse, and it's a comfortable frame for the horse to be in. This is the frame that our horses are in most of the time when we work. When we ask the horse to collect her frame, what she does is go from a long frame to a shortened frame. She'll actually drop her head and neck and bring her poll down and in. At the same time, she'll bring her hindquarters up underneath her, and this will cause her back to lift. I like to think of collection like an archer's bow. And you know, before the archer strings his bow, it's just a stick, and it has no power whatsoever. But if we bend that stick and we string it, we can release this incredible amount of power. So why would we want to collect a horse? Well, if we can get that horse in that more powerful position by bringing his hindquarters up underneath him, we can use that power to release energy when we need it. Collection puts the horse in a more athletic frame and makes him better capable of performing more advanced maneuvers like jumping or coming down a steep hill or up a steep ravine. Cutting cows, you need collection. Making a tight turn around a barrel, all of that requires collection. Anytime we want more athletic ability out of the horse, we need to be able to ask the horse to collect. Now, depending on the horse's conformation, some horses are able to collect more easily than others. If the horse has a nice long neck and a very powerful rear end and a long hip, that horse will be able to collect much easier and hold it much longer than a horse that's not built so well. What does collection look like? Again, it looks like the horse rounding his frame, dropping the front end, bringing the hind end up underneath, and bowing up in the middle. Collection will give the horse more impulsion. So you'll feel when your horse collects, it's a very subtle feeling, but you'll feel the withers come up underneath you, and you'll feel an increase of power being generated from the horse's hocks. Now let's take a look at the aids we're going to use to ask the horse to collect. Like anything, the proper aids used at the wrong time are the wrong aids. So collection is not only a matter of using your aids properly, but it's a matter of using your aids with good timing. And the timing is easy to feel. As I walk my horse, I will feel in my seat and legs a right-left motion. So my seat and my legs are closing alternately on the horse in a right-left fashion. Now I'm exaggerating this movement just a little bit so you can see it, but I don't create this motion. What I'm actually feeling, what's causing my seat and legs to move, is my horse's hind end. As she pushes off with her right hind leg, it causes the right side of her back muscles to bulge, and it causes a lift in my hip. So every time my horse pushes off with her hind legs, my right hip lifts. Every time she brings her right leg forward, my right hip drops and my right leg will close on the horse. So if I can feel this natural rhythm of the horse, that's all I need to know to use proper timing in the aids to collect the horse. Now, collection is not executed by pulling the horse into a collected frame. To use the aids correctly in collection, what I need to do first is drive the horse forward and then apply resistance with my hand as if to close the front door just slightly. And at the same time I'm driving the horse forward, and that will basically cause my horse to bunch up from behind and collect her frame. So again, I'll be driving the horse forward out the front door, but then with my hands, I'll be causing a slight closure of that door. I'll close that door about halfway, and that causes the horse to bunch up against that front door. So it's really important that we always drive the horse forward first with our seat and legs. So before I ask the horse to collect her frame, what I'm going to ask her to do using alternating leg aids is I'm going to ask her to move more forward in her walk. If I have a lazy horse, I might actually have to add a little bump with my calf or spur to encourage her to move more forward. And the next thing I'm going to do is apply resistance to with my hands to slow down the front end of the horse, but it's very important that you use alternating rein aids in timing with your leg aids. So when my right leg closes on the horse, I'm going to use a squeeze with my right hand. So I'm going to use leg and reins together, and I'm going to use my reins in an alternating fashion. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit for you now. So it's right leg and right rein together. So I have right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. It's critical that you use alternating aids, and it's critical that you time your hands with the horse's hind legs in order for her to stay soft and collected and to round her frame. As soon as I feel my horse come into a more collected frame, I'll slow down the resistance with my hands and try to keep her in that frame with my seat and legs. I like to actually think of lifting my horse's barrel with my leg aids. So as I apply leg, I'll actually scoop up on the horse's rib cage as I do to encourage her to round her back. Now let's take a look at what this looks like at a trot. The same right-left motion that you felt at the trot, at the walk, is present at the trot. So if I can sit the trot well, and I can feel this right, left, right, left motion, I automatically know what the timing of the aids is. Once I can feel the rhythm of the trot, then I increase the energy in my seat and legs to drive the horse forward. And then finally, I apply resistance with my hands, same side hand as legs, in a right, left, right, left fashion. Again, this encourages the horse to lift her back, to round her frame, and to bring her hindquarters up underneath her. When the horse collects, the rhythm of her gait will not change, but the length of her stride will change. So when she's at a normal walk, she may be striding out like this, but at a collected walk, she's picking her feet up higher and taking a shorter step. Now, let's take a look at collection at the canter. Collection at the walk and trot is a little bit easier. You can feel the correct rhythm and the correct timing easier than you can at the canter. Remember, the canter's a 3-beat gait, so you don't have that nice, steady 1-2 rhythm. But as you canter, there is a natural you'll feel a natural side-to-side motion with your shoulders, and that's the timing that you want to use with your hands. If you can't feel this side-to-side motion, what you can do is move your hands in timing with the horse's shoulder. When the horse's shoulder comes back, is the appropriate time to use the rein aid. So let me show you what it looks like at the canter. And now I'm in a nice long and low collected frame. So first I have to prepare my horse by shortening up the reins gently and slowly, closing my legs on the horse so she doesn't stop. And now I'm going to feel that side-to-side rhythm. I'm going to apply more leg first, and then I'm going to apply resistance with my hands in a right, left, right, left, right, left fashion, so that my horse begins to come off of the pressure of the bit, round her frame, round her back, and lift her legs just a little bit higher. Again, collection at the canter is much more complicated than collection at the trot. But once you feel the rhythm well at the walk and trot, it'll be much easier to execute at the canter. Once again, I'll let my horse go into a long, low, and level frame. She's fairly flat in her top side. She doesn't have a lot of power in this position. I'll slowly gather up the reins and close my legs, let her know I'm going to ask more of her, and then I'm going to add legs and then hands, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So I'm basically working inside to outside rein. And now you'll see my horse's stride is a lot more elevated. She slowed down quite a bit. She has a lot more power in this frame, so she's able to execute more advanced maneuvers. Well, Terry, I've got her all set up in the bridle I wanted to try on her. It's a mylar bit. It's actually called the MB36, and it's a bit specifically designed to encourage the horse to round its frame and soften in the front end. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot more tongue relief for her mouth than the other bit you had does. And also, there's a little forward tilt to the port, and that encourages her to round up when you pick up contact on the reins.
Good.
And I've put her in the snaffle mouthpiece for now, since we're going to be riding two-handed while we're working on collection at the canter. Mm-hmm. The great thing about these mylar bits is that you can get this exact same mouthpiece with a shank. So you can switch back and forth when you want to ride two-handed and work, more on things like collection or lateral movements. You can go to the egg butt side piece. When you're showing and riding one-handed, you can ride her in the shank and she'll have the continuity of the same mouthpiece.
Okay.
So I just want to give her a couple of minutes to get used to this new bit in her mouth, because anytime you change the bit on a horse, it's a whole new feel to the horse. If you've ever had any dental work done or something, and there's a tiny little change in your teeth, it feels like a big change because your mouth is so well programmed.
Right.
But so any change in the bit, we want to just give the horse a few minutes to kind of get used to that new feel. And then I'm going to start slowly kind of putting pressure on her. And what I'm going to do is lift my hands up just a little bit. When she's hollowed out, I'm going to lift my hands up and I'm going to apply some alternating rein pressure. As soon as her head comes down, I'm going to drop my hands down. I need her to understand there's a difference. She wants my hands down here. And what I want her to learn is that if her head's not where I want it, my hands are going to come up. And when her head comes down, my hands are going to come down. So I noticed earlier that you were pulling down on the reins a lot to get her to set her head, which seems like a logical thing to do, except for where she wants your hands is down. So I'm never going to drop my hands down until she drops her head down and comes into the frame I want.
Okay.
So anytime she hollows out, pops up with that head, I'm going to lift my hands and start some alternating pressure. As soon as she drops her pull, my hands are going to be down where she wants them to be. So just want to give her a moment at the trot for her to kind of understand what I'm going to do with my hands and for her to get a feel for the bit. And we're going to go right to working on the canter. Now at the canter, same thing. I'm going to use alternating pressure on the reins, and I'm going to work inside to outside rein. And basically that's in timing with the horse's shoulders. If I pull on two reins at all, she stiffens and braces in the neck and the shoulders. So I'm kind of liking where she's at there. So I just lift my hands up a little bit, and her head comes down, I'll drop my hands. Really important to keep a lot of leg on her at this time too, to encourage her, because not only do we want her to break at the pole and drop that head down, but we also want her to start bringing her hindquarters up underneath her. So it's not just hands, it's legs and seat as well. So keep her moving forward. So we're going to come back and work on that speed issue a little bit later. Right now, what's more important is that we get her to relax her neck, lengthen that top line, and the speed will be easy. So the main thing I want you to focus on is put your hands up, use that alternating rein pressure inside to outside rein, keep your legs on, and then drop your hands when you feel her round up.
Okay.
And she's actually getting this bit pretty quickly, I think.
It looked like it.
Yeah, at first she was a little bit resistant. Of course, the memory of that other bit
Sure.
kept her there, but she seems to have figured out, oh, this isn't so bad. I can relax with that.
Well, good. I like that. Good.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, Terry, it seems like she's gotten used to this new bit. Now you need to sort of get used to a new feel of her.
Right. It
So-
feels good.
Does it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like when I first put the bit in, she was still pretty bracy in the front end, but now she's figured out, oh, it's okay. I can soften and I can round. So
Yeah,
that's
she's
good.
a lot lighter.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Remember, I want you to pick your hand, think about picking your hands up a little bit more. When you go to pick up contact on that bit, actually bring your hands up, keep your legs on, good, and then drop them down. Okay, so I want her to start learning the difference, but that when your hands are up, that means she's doing something wrong.
Okay.
And that when she's doing something right, you're going to drop your hands down on the neck. Good, good. Now she's licking and chewing. And that's always a good sign. It means she's thinking about what's going on. Mm-hmm. So go ahead and pick your hands up again, and we want her to bring that nose a little bit more. Good. And then drop down with her. All right, let's bring it right up to the trot. Good, good. Pick your hands up when you go to make contact with her mouth. Your hands need to come up. Good. And it's not necessarily up real high, but just change the location of your hands. So
Okay.
she starts to, so we want her to start thinking ahead of you. And what we want to happen is that as soon as you start lifting your hands, she comes into a better frame because she knows what's going to happen. Does that make sense? If your hands stay in the same place all the time, she doesn't know the correction's coming.
Correct.
Good. And just kind of keep it slow. And I want that alternating rein pressure to be in rhythm with her stride. So it's going to be more like bump, right, left, right, left. Okay. So you're going to basically kind of move with her shoulders. Good, good. Little less. Try using less correction. Keep your legs on her. Keep her moving forward as you correct her because we want her to bring that hindquarter up underneath. All right, as you come around now, I want you to start thinking about the canter. I want you to position her haunches in. So that means you're going to reach back with your left leg, push her hips to the right, kind of like you've got her now. Let's have you go ahead and go past this muddy spot here and pick up the right lead lope when you get just past there. So push her hips to the right. Go ahead and ask her to lope. Good. Very good. Good. Now you're going to work inside to outside hand. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Good. And drop your hands. Good. And make sure as soon as she drops her pull. Don't wait for her head to go all the way down. But if she starts lowering her head, you drop your hands back down. Okay. Good. Good, that's better.
Whoops, and we stop.
That's all right.
Whoops, whoops, whoops.
Okay, that's just fine. Let's hold it right there for just a minute. So again, remember you're going to be moving to the rhythm of her stride, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Okay.
You're going to go inside to outside hand. So it's a rhythm like right, left, right, left, right, left. Okay. Make sure your reins are at the length where your hands aren't too far up in the air. And I'd like you, this is going to take some experimenting on your part to get used to that rhythm. And I'd like you to just work on that over the next day.
Okay.
And then develop that feel. And
Okay.
okay,
We'll try it from there.
try one more time around. Let me see how it looks. Well, Terry, she's certainly looking better at the trot. How's the practice been going?
I think it's been going really well. She likes the bit. She's comfortable in it.
Good.
It's easy to collect her with it, and I've seen a difference already.
Well, good. Well, just making a horse more comfortable in their mouth will give you all kinds of good experiences. And a bit will never train a horse, so we can't change the bit and expect her to become trained differently. But if we make her more comfortable and she's more relaxed, any horse is easier to train under those circumstances. So I like that you're doing a lot of work at the trot, and I think that you should continue that, because there's a saying in classical horsemanship that says the best way to improve the canter is to improve the trot. And as you do this collected work at the trot and she starts using her hindquarters more and lifting her shoulders more, the collection at the canter will become a lot easier.
Okay.
So remember, your goal here is to lift your hands when you go to the bit, just a little bit, an encouragement to lift her shoulder. Once she rounds up a little bit, then soften your hands, drop them down and stop the rhythm. You don't want to have to keep your hands going all the time, but you will keep your legs on her. Keep that rhythm going with your legs. Feel that right, left rhythm. So when she flexes up and comes to your hands, soften your hands and keep her there with your legs. Good. Let's try a little bit of canter now. I want you to shorten your reins just a bit in preparation for the canter. And whenever you're ready, use your outside leg to push her haunches in, and then ask her to canter. Okay? That's all right. She took the wrong lead. We'll try it again. Let's go right back to trot. Okay, Terry, whenever you're ready, go ahead and shorten your reins up a little bit in preparation for the canter. And we'll go ahead and give her the cues. You're going to use your outside leg. Very good. Keep her going with your seat. Nice. Very nice. So at the canter, to round her up and soften. Good. You're just going to add a little rhythmic bump with your hands, working out inside to outside. So it's left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. It's a kind of a quick rhythm. Bump, 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 bump. Good. And keep your legs on her. And when you feel her round up, soften your hands. Okay, go ahead and stop for me for a minute.
Ooh.
Okay. I think this is coming together real quickly. You haven't had a lot of time to work on this, but she's responding well.
Yeah, she feels a lot better.
Good.
It's more comfortable to ride.
The main thing to remember is keep those hands elevated and drop them when she rounds up instead of the other way around.
Okay.
And I think you're going to make a lot of progress with her. Keep your legs on, keep your hands rhythmic, start using your hands more as a cue rather than as correction. And I think in short order you'll do well.
That's good. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Good. Well, let me see you one more time.
At what speed?
Here's a quick tip to make sure your tack is adjusted correctly. The rear cinch should always be fastened snugly and never hanging down below the horse's belly. Make sure there's a hobble between the front cinch and the rear cinch to prevent the rear cinch from slipping back towards the horse's flank and becoming a bucking strap. The breast collar should be attached so that it rides above the horse's shoulder and does not interfere with the horse's forward motion. Before I move on to actually doing lead changes with my horses, I want to make sure I have total control of my horse's haunches and am able to leg yield in both directions at both the walk and the trot. Once I've completed all of those steps, I'm ready to actually start working on lead changes. And again, that's where we change the horse from right lead to left lead or left lead to right lead. There's two ways to execute a lead change. One is called the simple lead change or the drop lead change. And that, being able to do a simple lead change, always precedes being able to do a flying lead change. In the simple lead change, the horse is actually going to break down to a lower gait, either trot or walk. The rider will reposition the horse and then re-cue him for the canter on the other lead. So Chris, if you would, why don't you demonstrate a simple lead change for us at the trot. So Chris will come around the arena, and then she's going to come right through the middle of the arena, which we refer to as X. And as she approaches the middle of the arena, she breaks down to trot, she repositions her horse, and re-cues her. One more time. Good. Now this horse is just beginning her lead changes, so we're going to be patient. We'll come back again, break the horse down. Now take a little bit more time to rebalance. Bring her back to trot, rebalance, and ask again. Good. Now circle on around to the right, and let's come through the middle of the arena again. And as you come to the middle, break down to trot, take all the time you need, good, to reposition the horse. Come on around again to the right. Good. Had a little traffic jam there. We'll come around and we'll do one more lead change, Chris. And remember, take as long as you need to rebalance the horse before you cue the horse again. Excellent, excellent. And notice that with each lead change that she did, the horse responded better and better. By the way, you're going to do at least 1,000 simple lead changes before you're ready for the flying lead change. Chris's horse is just starting to do simple lead changes, and he's still a little bit confused over waiting for the rider's signal. But you notice that with every subsequent transition, she did better and better and better until the horse was responding well to her aids. Once you've executed a few hundred simple lead changes, what you'll discover is the amount of time you need to reposition and re-cue your horse gets shorter and shorter with each transition. Rich and his horse have been working on simple lead changes for some time now, and they're just about ready to move on to the next stage of flying lead changes. You'll see he has a simple lead change down to just 1 or 2 steps of trot. Once we have the simple lead change down to 1 or 2 steps of trot, you're just about ready to move on to the flying lead change. So let me talk to you a little bit about the cue for the flying lead change. It's very similar to the cue that you were giving your horse for the simple lead change. And we're going to do the lead change, ask for the lead change, either on the figure 8 or on the diagonal line like Rich just rode. As I prepare my horse for the flying lead change, the first thing I'm going to do is about a half a circle away, I'm going to concentrate on what the lead I'm on feels like. In this case, I'm going to be on the left lead. So as I half circle away from where I'm going to execute the lead change, I start thinking about how my position feels in the saddle. My weight is on my outside stirrup, my inside leg is forward, and my inside rein is slightly lifted. As I approach the point where I'm going to ask the horse for the lead change, I straighten him out, rebalance the horse, lift my hands in the new direction, and then change my legs. Now I'm on the right lead, and as I canter around, I'm thinking about having my weight in the left stirrup, my right leg is forward, and my inside hand is slightly elevated. As I come to the center where I ask for a lead change, I rebalance my horse and then reposition my seat legs and hands. Let me show you how that looks in real life. First, I'll ask the horse for the left lead canter. And again, I'm going to make my lead change in the center of the arena. So when I get to here, I first start thinking about that lead change. I'm thinking about my weight in my right stirrup. My left leg is forward. As I approach the middle, I rebalance, lift, and ask the horse for the new lead. Now that time she broke down into the trot, but that's okay because she picked up the correct lead. So she basically did what I asked, even though it wasn't perfect. So rebalance, change legs. Half circle away, I'm thinking about this lead. My weight is in the outside stirrup, my left leg is forward. As I come to center, rebalance, lift, and change legs. Let me show you one more time how that looks. I'm thinking about the right lead now. Weight in the outside stirrup, right leg forward. Rebalance, lift, and change legs. The flying lead change is one of the most complicated things that we ask horses to do. Once again, all horses know how to do flying lead changes. The question remains, can we cue the horse to do the lead change when we want it rather than when the horse wants it? So it's a very difficult training progression to get the horse to this level. By the time the horse is doing flying lead changes, we've literally done hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more simple lead changes.
My name is Stacy McGrady and this is my colt, and I foaled him out myself. He's the first horse that I've ever been able to foal out myself and do most of the training on myself. We've gone to other people for some help when we get stuck, and right now I'm stuck again. I can't get our lead changes. I'm hoping to be able to show him in reining and working cow horse events, and without being able to get a nice pretty lead change, we just can't be competitive. So I'm looking forward to getting some help from Julie on getting our lead changes and making them look smooth and pretty and fluid and be competitive.
I really like the look of Stacy's horse. He's very steady, he's got a nice cadence. He's really quiet in the eye, even when he misses the cue for the lead change and she corrects him. He doesn't get flustered, he just stays real even-keeled, and that means he's a real trainable horse, and she's done a good job with him up until now. And there's clearly a problem with the cue for the lead change. He's not really expecting the cue, and what's happening is he's changing leads in front but not behind, and that's known as a cross canter, and a cross canter is scored as a wrong lead. So even though some people might look at it and say, oh, he changed leads, if he doesn't change leads in behind and in front, it's considered a wrong lead. And the way reining is scored, for every quarter circle that you're on the wrong lead, it's a -1. So in some of these circles, she's going all the way around in the cross canter, so that would be scored as a -4. That's a big hit in a reining pattern. You're not really going to recover from that. So if there is a problem with your lead change, you want to fix it in the first quarter circle so it's only a -1 deduction instead of 2, 3, or 4. So the cross canter is a big problem. Changing leads in front is a big problem. What I'm seeing here is that Stacy's not really giving the horse much preparation. The cue is coming on him suddenly, therefore he transitions late and into the cross canter. So I think we need to work on clarifying Stacy's cue a little bit, giving the horse better preparation for the cue, and there's no reason why he can't get it done. Well, Stacy's done a good job so far, I think.
Thank you.
I really like the temperament on your horse. He seems like he's really trainable and steady in his mind. But has he been pretty good to train?
Yeah, he's been, after I yelled at him, he was very nice.
Okay. I see some things we can work on, and you know, you're getting a lot of change to cross canter, which is considered a wrong lead. So I think that if we can get a little more clarity in your cue, a little more preparation, so that he's ready for the cue, I think we can make an impact on that. The changes to cross canter are going to really hurt your scores. So what kind of exercises have you been doing with him so far to work on this?
I do a lot of counter exercises and moving his hips over, moving his barrel over, to tracking at the trot and at the canter.
Good.
Which is new to me. I just recently learned that, and so we've been doing that.
Good.
Trying to keep him framed up. Mm-hmm. But
Okay.
I think I'm just really, like you said, I'm not clear with my cues and with my timing.
Mm-hmm. I think the big key is going to be preparing him for the cue. I see this most of all with problems with lead changes, is the horse is not even thinking about it, and then he's there, and so it kind of falls apart.
Okay.
So, well, I'd like to get on him and feel him out just a little bit. I want to set up an exercise,
Okay.
and then we can get started. So
That'd be great.
let me go back to the barn and we'll get some cones.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Stacy, you've done a good job with him. He feels pretty good to me.
Thank you.
He's light in the mouth, moves off your leg well. All the ingredients are here. You may have noticed that I'm asking a little more of him than you. And I think that one way horses think of trainers is they think of the owners one way, and then they think of the trainers as being part of the mafia or something. So, and sometimes it's hard when you raise a horse and you do all the training yourself. It's hard to raise your expectations as much as you should.
Yeah.
And I think you can start asking a little bit more of him. He's easy to frame up.
Okay.
He comes off your hand very nicely. So start expecting him to be in frame a little bit more. It's always going to be times when you're going to work him on a loose rein, let him have his head stretch out. But other times, let's gather him up, make him work a little more off the hind end, which is where our problem is, right? We
Right.
got the lead change down here.
Okay.
We got to get it here.
Okay.
So if you noticed what I was doing, had a chance to school him just a little bit, not long, but did you notice anything about the way I was coming into?
Yeah, I did. I saw you were coming in at a real angle and then switching, moving that hind end over pretty dramatically.
Yeah, exactly right. So I've got some cones here that are marking where the transition needs to occur.
Okay.
So this is the transition zone. And these cones right smack in the middle here. If you want to really plus your lead change, you want the lead change to occur right here, smooth and slick. So in order for that to happen, you're going to start preparing for the lead change way back there.
Okay.
And there needs to be no doubt in his mind as he's approaching. So right before these first cones, just to summarize what I was doing, as I was coming around the circle, first of all, I brought him through the circle without a lead change. And as I came through the circle, I focused on looking in the direction I wanted to go. I really kept his hip to this side. I kept my weight in the outside stirrup and went all the way around. Now, as I come for the lead change, I'm thinking about it over in here somewhere.
Okay.
And I'm really going to push that hip in extra far, weight the outside stirrup. And then right back here, I brought my weight to center, and then right here, asked for the lead change. So it was really a lot more dramatic. And we need to be just absolutely as clear as possible to him. There should never be a question in his mind. So right now I'm going to come through and not ask for the lead change.
Okay.
So I got my weight to the outside. I'm looking where I'm going. I'm holding his hip to the inside. That's the way we avoid our horses anticipating, is if there's never a question, he won't be anticipating.
Okay.
So now as I come around, I'm going to exaggerate that. I'm really pushing the hip to the inside. And then right here, I'm gonna bring him back and then switch. And that's fine. He did a little stutter step there, but that's okay for now. We need to make sure he gets the idea that the change has got to occur in the middle, not sometime afterwards. So let's switch places, and I think I can talk you through this. I think you've already got a visual of what I'm doing.
Okay.
So let me talk you through this with you up in the saddle.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, Stacy, let's just go ahead and have you pick up the circle on the right lead.
Okay.
And I want you to just canter around a few circles.
Okay.
And I'd like to see you get him framed up nice. And I'd like to see you in general start increasing your expectations of him. Make him work a little harder at times. Good, that looks much better. So when he's in the frame you want, drop your hands down, come on through the circle. And when he's not where you want, you're going to give him a little bump with one rein and then the other if needed. Okay, not two reins at the same time. Keep your legs on him throughout that. So you drive him forward into the bridle. That's much better. Much better. Come on through the circle. As you come through the circle, I want you to really focus around the turn. It needs to be very, very clear to him that when you're changing directions and when you're not. So when you're not changing leads, as you come around here, wait to the outside stirrup. I want you to start pushing his hip to the inside. Good, good. Look around the turn. Good, it's all right. And we're gonna come through one more time before we do a lead change. So I want you to focus on your weight to the outside, focus on keeping the hip bent to the inside, hold that all the way through the turn, looking around the circle. Good, good. Now this next time you're gonna ask for the lead change, and it's gonna be very different from what you just did. So right now, push the hip to the inside, and before you get to the cones, we're gonna change that. So exaggerate the hip to the inside. Good, now straighten him out and cue. Correct him, bump the hip, bump the hip, bump the hip. Okay, better. All right, that's good. Let's stay on this circle now. Same thing, weight to the right stirrup now. Look, look, look. Tell him very clearly with your eyes and your body that you're not changing directions. You're staying on this circle. And what we're trying to do is exaggerate the feel of this lead. It looks much better. You can shorten your reins a little bit if you need to. Very good, very good. Shorten your reins so your hands stay in front of the saddle. Nice. As you feel him round and drop his head, just drop your hands down. Very good, Stacy. Weight to the outside, look around the turn, look, look, look. Okay, we're gonna change leads now this time. So now start exaggerating the hip to the inside, right there. And so he starts thinking, this is different, this is different. Before you get to the cones, switch your hips and cue. And bump his hip, correct it, correct it, correct it. Correct it. Bump his hip. Just keep bumping his hip back there until, okay, good. Now stay on this circle. All right, so let's go over that cue. Just let him walk for just a second. So nice stop. See, you're getting better stops because he's framed up. So I'm on the right lead. My weight is in the left stirrup. My right leg is forward. I've got the hip pushed this way. As I approach the cones, I'm going to come to center and then here. Okay. So as I come to center, I'm going to pick up on the reins just a little bit. All of that is preparation. So here I am on the right lead, center, left lead. Okay. So that's all got to happen 2 or 3 strides before you want him to change. And where you want him to change is at those middle cones. So we got to back everything up quite a bit.
Okay.
And because this is new to him and he's having to think about it, we want to make it very, very clear to him.
Okay.
No guessing. All right, let's go back to right lead. And we'll try a couple more. And you know, lead changes are something that you can only work on for so long. It can be kind of stress-inducing to the horse. So we'll lope a lot of circles. He needs to lope circles anyway. So we're just going to throw a lead change in every now and then.
Okay.
Okay. So hip to the inside. Let's come around one more time. So project him around the circle now. Around the circle. Look around the circle. Good. Very good. Okay. Now this time you're going to try the lead change. So I want you to exaggerate weight in the left stirrup. Your left leg is back. You're pushing the hip way to the inside. Very good, very good. And come to center and change. Bump the hip, bump the hip, bump the hip. Get him fixed. Get him fixed a little quicker, even if you have to break gait. I don't want to go into -2, -3. So I want to get him fixed before he's completed that first quarter circle.
Okay.
Okay? So you have an idea what we're working on here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I want you to really work on making it very obvious when the circle continues and very obvious when you're going to ask for a lead change. All that has to occur back here. And I'll come back and check on you tomorrow.
Okay.
And hopefully you'll have things worked out a little better. Well, Stacy, how'd the practice on the lead changes go?
It went really well. We got a couple of them. We struggled with some, but we made progress.
Good, good. Okay, well, I'd like to see how you're coming with it, and I'd like you to work this time on the diagonal line of the arena. So let's have you go down the rail on the left lead. And by working on the diagonal, you're going to have a little bit more room to set him up for that lead change than you would on the figure 8.
Okay.
So you're going to come around the short side and then make a turn towards the opposite corner. And as you come across the diagonal, you're going to push that hip to the left now. Push, 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 release, and change. Good! That was only one stride late, but big, big improvement. Let's just let him stop for a second and pet on him. Okay, so I don't know if you felt it or not.
I did. That felt really so much better.
It was smooth. He was just a stride late on the hind lead.
Okay.
But a big improvement over yesterday, definitely. So whenever you make progress, we don't have to wait till it's perfect, but when it's better, if you can stop the horse, pet on him, let him think about that, praise him a little bit, rather than, particularly with lead changes, because they can be really stress-inducing to the horse. So rather than immediately go right back and do another one, if you can just kind of let him chill on it a minute.
Okay.
So let's have you go right back to the left lead. We're going to try the same lead change again.
Okay.
So pick up the left lead. You're going to come across the diagonal, hold that hip to the left, release it, then cue for the lead change.
Okay.
Go ahead. And just remember that sometimes it's easier when you're training a new skill to work on one side at a time.
Okay.
So since we just did a left to right and it was pretty good, let's try another left to right, and later we'll come back and work on the right to left. So push the hip way in, good, 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 and release and change. Excellent, excellent. And stop again.
Whoa.
Now that one was even better.
It felt smoother.
Good. And again, it's nice to stop, let him relax, praise on him a little bit, because this can be a little stress-inducing to the horse. So, in fact, what I'd like to do now maybe is just have you take him on a nice leisurely walk for 10 minutes or so out of the arena, clear his mind, and then we'll come back later and work on the right to left.
Okay, sounds great.
Good job.
Thank you.
I can show you an exercise now that will help you slow down that transition for the flying lead change, so that as both you and your horse are learning the cue, we can slow down the transition just enough to help you and your horse come together better on timing. I'll have to set up this exercise, so we'll pause for just a minute to prepare for this next exercise. I've set up this exercise with a pole in the middle of the arena at X, right where Cindy's going to cue for the flying lead change. What the pole does is it elevates the horse in his stride a little bit, and what you're going to do, Cindy, is cue your horse for the flying lead change as he lopes over the pole. What happens is, because he has to pick up his feet a little higher and stretch a little bit longer in his stride, it gives you just a little bit more time to cue the horse. So Cindy, let's go ahead and have you take off on a left lead and go all the way around the arena, and then you're going to approach the center of the arena and cue for a lead change to the right lead as the horse lopes over the pole. Now Cindy's riding two-handed because as we first start flying lead changes, we want to work with just two hands on the reins so everything's simple and clear to the horse. Now as she comes around, she's going to rebalance, lift the reins, and right as the horse lopes over the pole, she asks the horse for the flying lead change by changing her seat and legs. So again, as she approaches, she's thinking about that left lead. Now she's thinking about rebalance and change her aids. And that's all right. He changed leads just one stride before the pole. Let's try that one more time, Cindy. Come on around. Notice she's got her left leg forward. She's got a little bit of elevation in the left rein. And now she rebalances, lifts, and cues the horse for the lead change. That was great, Cindy. Thank you. By loping over the pole, it just slows down the transition enough that the horse and the rider can come together in their timing for the transition. Now, once our horse is executing lead changes pretty well, we can start riding one-handed instead of two. Of course, if you're an English rider, you might want to stick with two hands, but the Western horse is expected to perform the lead change with one hand on the reins. So that increases the challenge quite a bit with this skill. Finally, what we want to do is see if the horse can execute lead changes on a straight line. Up until now, we've incorporated a change of direction with the cue for the lead change. So as we came on the figure 8, when we cued the horse for the new lead, we were also turning him in a new direction. Same thing on the diagonal. As we come down the long line, we cue the horse right before the change of direction. That helps give the horse a warning about what you're about to ask him to do. When my horse is fully responsive in the cue to lead change, both on the figure 8 and on the diagonal, the next skill to know if my horse is truly finished is to see if he can change leads coming down the straight line of the arena. So Cindy, let's see how you do with this very challenging exercise. I'll have you take off on the left lead and go all the way down to the far end of the arena. And then I'd like to have you turn down the center line. And what Cindy's going to do is see if she can execute lead changes one after the other on the straight line. There was one change, two changes. Very nice. Let's give it one more time down the center line. Lead change and lead change. Very nice, Cindy. That was an excellent job. Now, that is probably one of the most challenging skills a horse and rider will ever perform, is one lead change after the other on a straight line. Cindy, you did a great job with that exercise. It probably could have been a little bit straighter. Again, that's the most challenging skill that a horse and rider can ever learn. So it takes time to do it perfectly. As she works on her straightness and her cues, she'll be able to fit more and more lead changes in as she comes down the center.
Here's a quick tip about training difficult maneuvers such as the flying lead change, which can sometimes be stressful for your horse to learn. Constant drilling and repetition will only increase your horse's anxiety and lead to anticipation of the cue. It's far better to practice the lead change only once or twice in each direction, giving your horse frequent breaks, and be sure to end on a positive note.
The unexpected can happen at any place and at any time, and knowing the basics of first aid can make all the difference. Today we're going to discuss basic equine first aid and some of the equipment you should have with you for an emergency. But first, let's review some key points with regard to handling an equine emergency. First, stay calm. Evaluate the horse and the injury site. Look the animal over and assess the situation. Get the pulse or heart rate, and also the respiration rate. You may also want to record the body temperature of the animal. It is a good idea to look at the gums or mucous membranes of the horse. These tissues should be pink. If they are bright red, pale, or bluish, this is an indication of a problem. Now, what type of wound is it? A laceration? Puncture? Is it bleeding? How large is the wound? Next, call your veterinarian. He or she will ask you questions regarding the condition of the horse. Be prepared to offer this basic information. Your first objective is to provide medical support until your veterinarian arrives, and then get help. If you need to wrap or treat a wound on an animal that is excited or somewhat fractious, you will need assistance. You can't help your horse if you become injured yourself. And if possible, without risk of further injury, move the horse to a safe and comfortable environment. Plan ahead. Have your equine veterinarian's emergency number posted in a prominent and easy to find place. If you're going to be traveling, talk to your local practitioner. He or she may give you a recommendation on a good veterinarian in the area of your destination. Whether you're at home with your horse or 500 miles away at a big equine event, you should always be prepared for the unexpected. One of the best ways to be prepared is to have a good equine first aid kit available at all times. Every horse owner can put together a practical first aid kit for a minimal investment. If you are intimidated by this task, then ask your veterinarian. Many equine clinics provide first aid kits for their clients as a service for a very reasonable price. Start with a durable container. Small to medium-sized toolboxes work great. They have a handle and can be acquired at any hardware or family store. Keep your kit in an easily accessible area and make sure everyone knows where it is. Now, what do we put in it? Well, first, let's consider items for a lacerated foot or leg. This is the most common injury you are likely to face. If the wound is obviously soiled and dirty, you will need to clean it before you apply a bandage. Consult with your veterinarian before this is attempted. Cleaning the wound is best done using clean water and a mild antiseptic soap, such as betadine. Be gentle with the wound as you clean it. Once the wound is cleaned, dry the area as best you can. Small clean cotton towels work well for this. If the decision is made to medicate the wound with a topical antibiotic ointment or powder, now is the time to apply this material. Next, you will need something that is clean and can be placed directly over the wound, but will not stick to the wound. Telfa pads work great for this, but disposable baby diapers can also be a handy item, not only for a leg wound, but also to wrap a foot if necessary. Ideally, any items that are applied directly to the wound should be sterile. Now you can apply a soft gauze wrap to hold the bandage material over the wound area. The next thing you need is some type of padding for your bandage. This is important not only for a laceration, but is also necessary for good leg support. We have several options here, but a roll of cotton or padded bandage material works best. Once this is applied, additional gauze is used to hold the padding in place. If there is significant bleeding from the wound, now's the time to apply pressure by wrapping the gauze snugly over the padding. Remember to leave a little padding sticking out above and below your gauze wrap. This will prevent any pressure damage to the skin or underlying structures. The final wrap is usually composed of a self-adhesive material such as vet wrap. This helps hold everything in place and makes the bandage much more durable. Other first aid kit items can include a pair of bandage scissors, thermometer, latex or exam gloves, a flashlight, and pliers to pull out nails. Other first aid tips: do not give any type of tranquilizer or sedative unless specifically directed by your veterinarian. If the horse is bleeding profusely, the administration of certain drugs can be life-threatening. Eye wounds should not be treated until your veterinarian arrives. If a horse steps on a sharp object such as a nail, you may need to remove that. Consult with your veterinarian first, and then follow his or her instructions closely. Horses with lacerations or puncture wounds should also receive a tetanus booster. Being prepared, having a plan in place, and an equine emergency kit available at all times can help minimize the consequences should an emergency occur. As always, talk with your veterinarian. He or she can review what you need to do should an emergency happen, whether on the road or at your place. It can make all the difference for the health of your horse.
Every horse owner should be prepared for emergencies. Pressure wraps are critical, not only to control bleeding until the veterinarian arrives, but also to manage freshly sutured wounds and older wounds where proud flesh is a concern. For pressure wraps, every horse owner's first aid kit should include non-stick pads such as Telfa pads, gauze rolls, single sheet cotton that's folded lengthwise and rolled up for wrapping, bandaging tape, self-adherent elastic tape such as vet wrap, and a pair of blunt tip scissors. And now to actually apply the pressure wrap, we want to kneel down beside the horse, not in front of it. And while we're wrapping, don't put your head in front of the horse's knee, because if he lifts up his leg, he's going to hit you in the side of the head. We'll pretend that the wound is here on the inside of this cannon bone. We want to take our Telfa pads, put them over the wound, hold them in place, take your 6-inch gauze, and wrap 4 or 5 wraps. Now we don't want to put this on very tight, because all we're trying to do here is hold the gauze in place. Cut that off, pick up our standing sheet cotton, and put it on below the knee down to just above the cornet band. And again, wrap it around the leg, fairly snug, making sure there aren't any wrinkles or creases. Take the remainder of the gauze roll, start in the middle of the wrap, and wrap the sheet cotton on. Now here, this is a pressure wrap, and we want to tighten it as we wrap, especially in the region where the wound is. Go ahead and put the rest of that on, pulling it fairly snug. It's always a good idea to wrap from the front laterally around the back rather than from the back forward. That way we don't bruise the tendons back here. Put the gauze on, smooth it out, and then we're going to apply our vet wrap. Again, start in the middle over the wound, and tighten it as we go. We've got enough padding here that we can wrap fairly tightly. We want to leave at least 1 inch of sheet cotton below and at the top so that we don't get our wraps down onto the skin. If we do that, it has a tendency to put pressure on the leg and could cause some sores or damage. We want to apply this fairly tight. Now if this wrap's going to stay on here for 2 or 3 days, we'd take an adhesive tape and we would tape up to the skin and down to the cornet band to keep dirt and dust out of there. It's just that simple. Make sure you practice this procedure before the crisis occurs. For your horse's health, I'm Dr. Tom Lenz. Because horses have large prominent eyes that are positioned on the sides of their head, they're extremely prone to severe eye injuries. Eye injuries can result from a number of causes, including dirt and small rocks thrown into the eyes during racing or competition, scratches from hay stems or weeds, and accidental contact with trailer latches, protruding nails, bucket handles, and other objects. Because a horse's eye normally harbors bacteria, any small abrasion can quickly progress to permanent damage or worse yet, blindness. And therefore it's critical that you're able to recognize the early signs of eye injury. Eye injuries are extremely painful, which causes excessive tearing. Affected horses will squint or close the injured eye and try to avoid sunlight. The eyelids often become red and swollen, and redness may occur in the white part of the eye. The eyeball itself may actually swell, which gives it a cloudy appearance. And remember, never use leftover eye ointments that are laying around the barn, because they're often contaminated with bacteria and can actually cause infection. Following a thorough examination to determine the type and degree of the eye injury, your veterinarian will prescribe therapy that usually involves the application of ointments and medications to fight infection or relieve pain. Because the medications usually dilate the eye, it'll be necessary to keep the horse in a dark stall throughout the entire treatment period. Eye injuries can heal or worsen quickly. Therefore, most eye injuries should be reevaluated by your veterinarian in 24 to 48 hours. Some horses are reluctant to let the owner apply medication to their injured eye and resist violently. If this occurs, the attending veterinarian can place a small tube under the eyelid, which then leads back to the mane to facilitate treatment. Remember that an eye injury is a true emergency, and the difference of a few hours can decide if your treatment is successful or not. So if you think your horse has sustained an eye injury, call your veterinarian immediately. For your horse's health, I'm Dr. Tom Lentz.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the AQHA Made to Ride DVD collection. You can expect more quality techniques and tips on your next DVD.